last category, pal, and it may be the most hotly contested category in all of Buffoon of the Year. I'm talking about the hack, the journalistic hacks out there, and there are so many of them out there. What I do in my book, which I'm going to show again, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, that's available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores.
This guy is a grifter.
The hack journalist, the political hack, doesn't cover stories. They cover narratives. Whatever the narrative is from the side that they're on, and they're on both sides, by the way, but we tend to focus more on the left because the majority of media does lean left. What they do is create a beautiful narrative of how they think society should be, or how they think a story should be framed, rather than reporting the facts and allowing the viewer, the consumer of the media, to decide on their own what conclusions should be drawn from those facts. They draw the conclusions for you, spoon feed it to you, and then use that narrative in order to self-perpetuate their influence, their access to politicians, and of course, feather their own nests. There are so many of them out there. Let me give you an example, pal, of what a beautiful narrative is to the left. You might remember this from when Donald Trump was preparing to do his rally at Madison Square Garden towards the end of the campaign season. And this actually features our friend Ryan Godusky in this clip from CNN.
You said the media called everyone who attended that rally Hitler?
Yes, they did.
Ain't nobody lying.
The media was saying that everyone who attended was Hitler. The reason that yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did. And I'll prove it to everybody.
Because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
I just watched
that did not happen.
Yes, it did.
And waiting for people like you
Abby
to maybe
Phillips,
say something
it 100% happened.
So now you're trying to gaslight me?
You were comparing that rally to a Nazi rally?
Look, I'm comparing it to the hate that came out of this, and I think they confirmed that.
You stand by that comparison, though, to a Nazi rally?
Look, the rally, you saw it for yourself. I'll let the American public make the decision of what they saw.
What about you, though?
So I know what I saw, and I'll just leave it at that.
That's gaslighting, pal. The beautiful narrative in that particular case was to paint Trump and everyone who attended that rally as being the bad people from WW2, fascists, racist, misogynist, all the ists that are out there. And yet Abby Phillip was denying that narrative, that beautiful narrative, was ever happening.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't understand how Godrowski could even be on a show like that. Like, that would be so frustrating to me. All these nominees that we're going to talk about here just blatantly lie, right? It's great because we'll have points for each of them. But that CNN panel is so painful. What's the other guy? Scott
Jennings.
Scott Jennings. Like, he's another one, man. He's got, like, talent. He should get his own show somewhere. He should not be there. It hurts me to even see his clips. He's always on point, but he's speaking to complete hacks, right? All of them are hacks.
I want to push back for 1 second about Ryan Godusky, Scott Jennings, and these other conservatives in the liberal media spaces. I actually love that they go out and do that they antagonize people, that they bring the opposite perspective on these networks. Not only because it helps grow their notoriety and show that their truth tellers are out there in this media space, but I think it exposes these hacks for what they are. Abby Phillip got exposed because Ryan Godusky was there to push back on her point.
I get what you're saying, Gene, but you have to be more like a Donald Trump in that arena, right? Donald Trump will never apologize. Even when he's wrong, he doesn't apologize. Ryan, like, would double down on his thing during that take. Hopefully we'll do a show on this. And then he kind of backed off last second while he was still on the air, and then he got fired, right? Like, never apologize. Call them out for hypocrisy even harder. Instead of just saying, no, it is true. Have a fact. Like, throw it right back in their face. Say, no, on this date, Tim Walz said this, right? Like, back up your shit and double down. Never apologize. Otherwise, don't go on those shows because they love nothing more when they smell blood in the water and fire you.
I hear the point, certainly, and clearly we're going to have to get Ryan on to have a little bit of this debate. Maybe we'll do it during Buffoon of the Year. I'll see if I can get him on. The first nominee I want to bring up, my friend, we are responsible for this happening. I don't know if you remember, but back when we were doing Behind Enemy Lines as a syndicated radio show back in the day, like, might even be like, my God, 10 years ago? Damn, we're old. But we used to throw a certain party at a certain event in DC every year. And one of the people who always brings up our party that we threw in DC every year, and I guess enjoyed herself, is Olivia NTI. She is the reporter. I don't know if you saw this. I believe she used to work for Anthony Weiner. She, in her formative years, I guess, hung out with us at some point. And then news broke this year about her affair with RFK Jr.
Her sexting affair.
Her sexting affair. I mean, let's be clear about what it is. I don't know if there was ever any physical contact. It was definitely which preacher said, "I sinned in my heart," or something? Oh, it was Jimmy Carter that said, "I had lust in my heart," or something like that.
I don't remember.
This was a little bit of a step further from that, but it's by trying to, I guess, cover RFK Jr. when he was running for president. She became entangled in that sphere, I guess. And it not only affected her job because she got fired from the New Yorker, New York Magazine or New York, I forget which one it is, but also ruined her marriage over political hackery. That's a pretty big F up.
For the record, I do not remember her from our previous line.
Sure you don't. Sure you don't.
Or any of those parties.
The attractive blonde reporter that was trying to speak to our friend Steve Stockman. Sure, you don't remember her at all. Not
ringing a bell, Mr. Berardelli. Not ringing.
Well, she remembers us, and she tweeted about the party when our friend Mr. Stockman he wasn't pardoned, but he had his sentence commuted by President Trump in his first term.
I mean, in her defense, have you seen RFK without a shirt on? I mean, it's a handsome
dude's jacked. But it's a textbook example of losing objectivity, and it's also a textbook example of, literally fuck around and find out.
Yep.
Probably the best moment I saw of a hack getting owned in media was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is the media slayer. He is the slayer of hacks. And what he did to ABC News' Martha Raddatz was a thing of beauty.
People are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Oh, you do you?
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
This is fine.
Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border?
Where are your priorities? Come on.
You seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
What is this obsession with him?
Let's just end that with they did not invade or take over the city, as Donald Trump said. I want to move on to
just a few apartment complexes, no big deal.
Oh no. Am I the buffoon?
Just a few. I remember when that story was bringing, and that was one of the turning points for J.D. Vance, that people started to see him as an asset to the Trump campaign rather than questioning whether or not he was going to be a good enough running mate. This was post-debate, and his star has been on the rise ever since.
Yeah. I mean, J.D. Vance is what I was talking about. He's a younger, cleaner, more coherent version of Donald Trump. He'll never back down, never apologize, and he doesn't let them get away with crap, right? And they can't cancel him, right? He destroyed her. I don't know if she can ever recover from that.
She looks like a big idiot.
J.D. Vance in that interview there, if the election was going to be close, would have tipped the scale, right? Because she was so stupid and so hackish that the average American person watching that, when JD Vance retorted with, "Are you listening to yourself? It was only a couple of apartment complexes taken over by a foreign gang," right? Like that is your textbook definition of hackery, right? I get the arcade sexting thing, but I don't think there's anything worse than that one this year.
Well, that's certainly probably the biggest incident. I mean, we can talk about Don Lemon getting owned by Vivek Ramaswamy earlier in the year to the point where he ended up leaving CNN. One of the more brilliant things the once and future President Donald Trump did was surround himself with a lot of narrative busters. People who are willing to go out there, speak truth to power, and to speak to what they see and buck the trend of a narrative like Martha Raddatz was doing right there. Bringing Vivek Ramaswamy on board to break narratives, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, RFK Jr. to some extent as well, other surrogates out there like Carolyn Leavitt, who I believe is going to be the press secretary now, who is going out there getting thrown off of CNN because she didn't want to play their games.
What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently,
stop this interview if you're going to keep attacking my colleagues.
Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay,
now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate.
Tucker Carlson,
a lot of people, and then going on podcasts like Theo Von and Joe Rogan and sitting down with The Undertaker and showing the other side of the narrative, whether it be the personal narrative of Donald Trump or the policy narratives out there. That won him the presidency, in my opinion, breaking down the wall of the hacked narratives from people like Martha Raddatz. And another buffoon that we have to talk about here that I think may be a bigger offender of putting forth false narratives, Joy Reid. I think if you're looking for the biggest moment, you look to Martha Raddatz, right? If you're looking for sustained buffoonery of pushing hacked narratives, it's gotta be Joy Reid.
I agree. This is the same thing, right? Staying power. She has it. The thing about Joy Reid is this. I mean, obviously she's a hack, right? But she's genuinely dumb, right? I don't know if Martha Raddatz is dumb, right? But Joy Reid is dumb. There's no debating that. She also has no viewers, which is even more odd to me, right? Sean Hannity is a hack, but the guy got ratings, right? So he makes money for the network. Joy Reid doesn't. So I don't understand how she's on TV. She's dumb, has no ratings, and is a hack. And a consistent hack. She's going to be tough to beat.
And to top off this tomfoolery, Trump floated Florida Congressman Byron Donalds as a potential vice presidential pick. Donalds, who backed Trump's lie that Biden authorized the feds to take him out, that guy, the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out as fake proof that black people, the blacks, are just MAGA.
That's racist!
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Sean Hannity to give an example of a right-wing hack. There are also other ones out there that we can talk about. I'm sure you can mention Laura Ingraham and others out there as well. To me, there are also self-aware hacks like a Jesse Waters or a Greg Gutfeld who know what they're doing and they have no pretense about it. They don't say that they are news people and they are there to express their opinion. They want to be thought leaders, like we talked about on the left with Mehdi Hassan and Elie Mystel and Michael Eric Dyson and people of that ilk. There's a difference between those people and someone, let's say, like a Chuck Todd or an Abby Phillip, a news person, a hack, I should say, masquerading as a trusted news source. And I think Hannity might be actually where the tipping point is, from where you go from you are a hack to you're a personality that has an opinion on news. And I'm glad you brought that up to make that point.
Yeah, and just real quick on that, like Hannity is bad in that sense because he'll never call. He's friends with a lot of these people that he has on his show, like the Lindsey Grahams of the world, right? Lindsey Graham is wrong about a lot of things. A guy like Jesse Waters will call him out. Like he'll never go on Jesse's show and get into it, but he'll call him out because Jesse Waters, like you said, he it's like more of a spiel for him. He knows he's a hack, right? He's not pretending to call balls and strikes, right? And when our side is not, doing what our side wants to happen, he'll call him out. Jesse Waters, but when you get the Sean Hannity's of the world, the Joy Reids, Joe Biden could do no wrong. Kamala Harris was a messiah. Like it's just insanity. They're complete hacks.
You want to talk about treating politicians like messianic figures? We got to talk about Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski and their worship of Joe Biden and how this election broke them. And they're now trying to open up dialogue with Donald Trump. I want to give an example of what this sort of hack journalism looks like when it comes to Joe Scarborough, Morning Joe, and Mika Brzezinski. Keep in mind, this is a clip I put together from like 2020 as an example to show how much they were in the bag against Trump and how deep their TDS went. All of these clips, pal, came from one episode of Morning Joe in 2020.
Oh my God.
Oh, I don't know. We won't call them fascist comments. Fascism. Fascist. Call fascism. Fascism is fascist. Fascist
notions of fascism. Xenophobic, racist, demagogic, racist, sexist, xenophobic, autocratic, and fascistic. Donald Trump is a fascist.
Someone like a fascist or a tyrant or an autocrat.
Fascist rhetoric, fascist language, fascists.
I'm glad that you're starting talking about fascism.
Hitler, right. Fascist rhetoric. He's talking the way fascists talk. It's autocratic, fascist, Nazi Germany. Before the rise of Hitler, fascist language.
To Hitler, fascist, Hitler. Adolf Hitler.
Hitler. But Hitler.
From what Adolf Hitler preached in the early 30s. Let's just say it once and for all.
And shout out to Tom Elliott and Grabian for putting together that supercut, as you saw at the end there. I like giving credit where credit's due. That was 2020. That was the hole that Morning Joe dug for themselves for 4 years during Donald Trump and the 4 years after, and now going forward, they're trying to dig themselves out of that hole. And even news personalities like Rachel Maddow and others at MSDNC are calling Morning Joe and Mika Brzezinski sellouts, to the point it was reported in the New York Post that Rachel Maddow cornered and confronted Mika Brzezinski and drove her to tears because of her lack of credibility and Joe Scarborough's lack of any sort of integrity.
Yeah, so I don't know what they're surprised about, right? Joe Scarborough, and we've spoken about him in the past, was part of the Republican Revolution under Newt Gingrich in the 90s when we took the House back after like 50 years, right? He was supposedly a young gun conservative Republican back then. Then, without explaining why, became a liberal lunatic on MSNBC for many years, right? Complete hack. And then, after the video you just played and the nonsense he spoke for years, went and kissed the ring at Mar-a-Lago and said he's willing to like work with Donald Trump where he can, right? You can't be a hack and then change your mind and not explain why you changed your positions and also repent. And he's done it twice, where he went from Republican to Democrat, and now he's sort of slithering back towards MAGA. Like, you don't get to do that, dude. Yeah, he's a sellout, but more importantly, he's a fucking hack.
And a liar, because he was one of the people out there talking about how fit and sharp Joe Biden was before the debate with Donald Trump back in June.
Spent a couple of hours
with Joe Biden sitting, talking, going around the world as far as talking issues, talking the economy, talking inflation. And I must say, when I was talking to him, my thought wasn't, oh, poor guy. My thought was, oh, my God, I wish Dr. Brzezinski were on the other side of the table right now, because these two guys, 50 years of experience, and Joe Biden hasn't forgotten it. He may get pissed off at a press conference, and he may be thinking about the Mexican border deal and say Mexico instead of Egypt. He knows what he's talking about. He circles back around, gets to Egypt. He might misplace a word here and there, but you talk to him for hours at a time. Is he slower? Does he move slower? Yeah, he's moved slower. Is he stiffer? Yeah, he moves stiffer. Does he have trouble walking sometimes? Yeah, so did FDR. We got out of the Depression. We won a GD war. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
Joe Scarborough is a liar. Bottom line, they're all liars, but few people got caught in their lies more publicly than Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski here.
And that's what I mean, Gene. Did he ever repent for lying about Joe Biden being sharp as a tack? No. Right? The guy is a sellout, obviously, but more importantly, he's a hack. You have to tell us why you said those things. Did you believe those things? If you did, tell us why and what changed your mind. Same thing with Kamala Harris. That's another reason why she lost, because she was a hack. She probably fits into a lot of these categories, to be honest herself. But yeah, Scarborough still needs to explain that one, right? How did you say Joe Biden was sharp as a tack and running circles around people? This is the best version of Joe Biden that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's completely ludicrous here. Look, we can nominate so many others here. Basically, everyone at MSDNC, the Ari Melbers of the world, and the Lawrence O'Donnells and the Rachel Maddows, who we haven't even talked about. Or we can talk further about Abby Phillip and others at CNN. And I think the way I want to end this segment, pal, is what happened in 2024 also is we saw a continuing trend about what happens to hacks after their relevance sort of wears out. Apparently, they go to News Nation with Chris Cuomo and Geraldo Rivera, and I guess to some extent, if you want to say Bill O'Reilly as well, that seems to be the retirement home for hacks that have their moment, but then also have their fall. That's an interesting development in the hack it's singular to our age of social media, because that really didn't happen a lot. Usually when someone lost their credibility back in the day, they were just gone. Or they went to cable news like Brian Williams, or they became a special correspondent like Dan Rather. They were pushed to the side. But there are so many more media opportunities out there because of social media. Everybody's going to have their own podcast, or going to go to an alternative channel, that the advent of social media is going to exponentially increase not only the number of hacks, but the longevity of hacks as well. I don't know if that's such a great thing.
Yeah, you can't kill him off now. I just think it's hilarious, though, that you even mentioned Chris Cuomo, because he is so, he was a hack, but he wasn't even a good hack. And he's so stupid and irrelevant now that he doesn't even get a nomination in our category for hack.
Well, I will say, if I didn't say it already in the top of the segment here, he is mentioned in Shooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons. In fact, if you look at the cover here, he's the one dressed like Fredo right there. Let me see if I can get a better... There you go. He's the one dressed like Fredo next to AOC over there.
He had no staying power, though. He was a flash-in-the-pan hack.